Okay, cool. All right, I think we're set here. So welcome everyone. My name is Kevin Ness, and we have Becky Swenson with us on the webinar today. And we have a couple of exciting topics that we want to cover with you. One is the definition of exercise as written by Ken Hutchins. And we at Mayo have seen how that definition of exercise that we're going to explain in a minute here has truly been transformational in the work that we do. And I know thousands of others around the country and around the world that have been impacted by this objective definition of exercise. Now, before we get into what it actually is, it's important just to note the reason for even having or wanting to even attempt defining what exercise is. I know it's maybe not a popular notion in today's society because we're typically told, well, anything that involves movement is exercise. And well, if as long as you get your heart rate to a certain level, or as long as you sweat, or any number of other things, that's exercise. And try to do 150 minutes of that activity, according to the CDC, for example. The problem with that is there's really no objective way of knowing the quality behind what it is they're actually doing, and if it's improving your lifestyle or not, or improving your health or not. So Ken, through his experiences and years of work in this field, he developed a very concrete definition of exercise, which again is controversial because once you define something, you also define the things that aren't, falling within the category of the definition. So he writes out some brilliant work in his technical manuals and specifically his article on exercise versus recreation. I'd suggest all of you get a hold of his resources and his books. I think you can buy it on Amazon, but highly suggest you look into Ken Hutchins' material that he's produced. Incredible stuff. So the definition of exercise, as Ken wrote it out, is this: exercise is a process whereby the body performs work of a demanding nature in accordance with muscle and joint function in a clinically controlled environment within the constraints of safety, where we're meaningfully loading the muscular structures to inroad their strength levels and stimulate a growth mechanism within minimum time. So that is the definition of exercise that we work with at Mayo. And so what that enables us to do is, when you really break it down into those 6 or 7 components, it really provides kind of a North Star, if you will, something that's fixed, a guiding direction in order to qualify other activity as to whether it's exercise or not. So if, let's just pick an activity, let's say running, is that exercise? Well, it depends. Is it within muscle and joint function? Perhaps. Is it in a clinically controlled environment? Not likely. Are you doing it within constraints of safety, or stimulating the muscle growth mechanism within minimum time? Perhaps not. So there's a level of things there that we can use to objectively measure the activity that we're engaged in, and if it truly falls into the category of exercise. If it doesn't, it's not a bad thing. It's not something you shouldn't do, but we can't say it's exercise. So enjoy doing all the things that you love doing. Continue to do them. Live an active lifestyle. It's part of a healthy lifestyle, is be active, do the things you love to do. If you like running, if you like jogging, if you like golfing, if you like playing tennis, if you like reading a book, do all those things, and you're going to be healthier overall as a result. So we're definitely not here saying don't engage in those things, don't do those activities, but we're just trying to define what exercise is and what exercise is not. So because it is helpful. So Becky, as you've been training people for a number of years now, what are some ways that you've seen this play out in practical ways within the facility or within the studio?
Mm-hmm. One of the things that people are surprised at, and they kind of chuckle at when they hear that definition, is the word demanding. Because we don't want to do things that are demanding, and we joke at Mayo that exercise, when done properly, exercise isn't fun. Right. It's demanding, right. And our body wants to get away from things that are demanding. We want we want to conserve energy. And what we're trying to do within strength training is we're trying to work our muscles to the point of fatigue. That's that inroad piece where we're trying to fatigue the muscles deeply to the point where you cannot move a weight in with proper form in a positive movement. And so that when you get to that point, it becomes very uncomfortable. And we want to get past that point of discomfort. We're getting to the point of you cannot move it any further. So the word demanding is really critical there. And how often do we do activities that are, we get to the point where we get uncomfortable, but it's very difficult to get to the point of demanding. And those sometimes is as short as 5 or 6 seconds to make that stretch from uncomfortable to demanding, but that is where the real growth happens.
Yeah, definitely. I want to echo your point on, if exercise is done properly, it's not going to be fun. Like, your body does not want to go there. And that's not to say it's not rewarding. Like, there's definitely an intrinsic almost reward for working so hard. And we're definitely not saying that's not the case, but just like 99% of people aren't going to be like, if I could do something really fun right now, I'm going to do a leg press at mile. Like, that's not going to be the case more often than not. So that's an important distinction. And that first point is it's a demanding process. I like another point that we try to emphasize is that clinically controlled environment. And that's even probably more important now, especially with coronavirus and whatnot, just to maintain a clinically controlled atmosphere where safety is a huge priority. And that's been the reason behind a lot of our studio design and how we lay out equipment and how we lay out the training rooms, and why we have only private one-on-one strength training. There's no groups. There's no more than an instructor and a client within one room at any given time. And that's maybe not very popular, but we believe that it has a greater effect on our clients' ability to focus and work hard and get the results that they're coming in for. So that's another point that I like to emphasize, as well as time. And that's, again, a huge thing that we obviously talk a lot about with our clients, and that our clients want is time efficiency. We don't want to waste hours and hours during the week pursuing something that we could achieve in far less time, and perhaps minutes versus hours of our week. So that's a significant thing. So I guess I would challenge anyone to really just wrestle with that definition, go back and replay and listen to that definition, and apply it to your own life, apply it to your own training. And it doesn't have to be within one of our facilities to truly have exercise, but use those 6 or 7 components within that definition to transform the way that you're exercising and how you're doing it. And so I have yet to run into anyone who's really challenged that definition. I don't know about you, Becky. I know there's maybe some that would in a general sense, but specifically when you say, okay, what part of this exercise of this definition do you disagree with? And I have yet to find anyone that's willing to say, well, no, the safety part, that's not important. You don't need to have that in there. So that's a thing we just wanted to touch on today, just from an educational standpoint. A second component of today's talk we want to touch on is the importance of goal setting, and that there's actually a process to that. We don't want to just throw out like, oh, I just want to lose 20 pounds. And that can actually set you up for more disappointment down the road. So Becky, what are some things that you've seen, and I know you have some examples you want to share here today, but take us through some of the goal setting process that you've seen even in your personal life or in the lives of clients.
Well, at the beginning of 2020, I heard about this book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. And we had been talking about this within our staff at Mayo. And a few of us have read it or listened to it on Audible. And James Clear makes some really interesting points in this book. If you have not read it, I highly recommend that you listen to it or read it. He's broken it down, this whole concept of habit forming. to a psychological level, a social level. I mean, there's just so many pieces. It's fascinating on why we do things that we want to do and why we continue to do things that we don't want to do. And I have an example, a personal example that I'd like to share with you about a goal that I had set a while ago that I just could not nail. I just kept putting it off and putting it off. And it relates to photography. So I love photography. I've been blessed with getting some really nice gear. I just love photography. We live on a farm and there's all kinds of opportunities for taking beautiful photos. One of the goals that I've had for about 3 years is to learn the program Lightroom, which is a photo editing program. It's a software package. It's very robust. It has incredible options. There's just so much you can do with Lightroom. And I've know, and looking at the trial version of it, that it's what I would need. And I've even taken 2 classes in person to learn Lightroom. In fact, one of them I drove it. It was probably 15 below wind chill in the dead of January.
Wow.
I took this class, and each time I came home thinking, okay, I'm going to subscribe to this. I'm going to start this. This is going to bring my photography to a new level. I can't wait to start this. And as soon as I would get to the screen where I'd say, you know, like subscribe and look at the monthly fee, I would back out and I think, oh, I don't know. Well, this last week, I just came to a tipping point because I had a number of photos that I had taken a couple years ago. I was trying to find them. I couldn't find them. And when I finally did, after quite a search, it took me 2 different software packages to edit them the way I wanted to. And I knew in the back of my mind, I could have done this easily in Lightroom. And it would have taken me about 1/5 of the time of what I just burned up. And I was getting frustrated with myself. And I kept thinking, what is wrong with me that I cannot, you know, push the button to subscribe to Lightroom? And I started thinking about it, and I realized that the issue was that I saw Lightroom, this is this huge program, and I felt like in order to justify the price of that subscription, I needed to learn everything about it as quickly as I possibly could, like maybe in 2 weeks. Which would be completely unrealistic. There are professionals that still don't know everything there is to know about Lightroom. But in my mind, I had to make this big thing. I had to achieve this big goal really quickly and smoothly, you know, no blips on this at all. And I thought that, okay, that's ridiculous. What do I really need out of Lightroom? Well, there are only 3 things. I needed how to tag my photos to find them easily. I needed be able to lightly edit my photos, and I want to be able to put a watermark on them. Those are 3 little things. Those are like a tiny portion of what Lightroom can do. And now I'm ready to grab on and subscribe to Lightroom because I think, well, I can do those things in a few weeks or just learn about them to the point where I could, you know, start that process. So how does this relate to exercise and strength training? Well, I got thinking about this, and I know, Kevin, you may have heard this often too. When people come in and they want to start strength training with us, we'll ask, why, you know, what brings you here and why now? And they'll say something like, oh, I just want to get in shape, or I need to lose some weight. And in that case, that's a really big goal, like my Lightroom goal, this, you know, to learn everything and do it quickly. And that's such a big goal. And maybe and obviously they had tried other things to do that, to reach that goal of getting in shape, and couldn't do it. But actually, like this analysis of Lightroom, where when I drilled down and figured out there were just really 3 things that I really wanted out of Lightroom right now. When we ask clients, what does it really mean to you to get in shape?
Yeah.
And we ask more and more questions, we get some answers that are really pretty simple. And some of the things that I've heard are something like, when I get down on the floor to play with my kids, I have a hard time getting back up off the floor. I want to be able to pop back up off the floor and not have achy knees or hips. Yeah. Or another woman told us recently that she loves to spend time outside with her grandkids, for instance, biking. And she's sometimes concerned about going because she's afraid she can't keep up with them, or she would hold them back, or maybe get so sore she couldn't continue the bike ride. That's something nice and specific. Or another one I thought of was that someone told me one time, you know, I have all these clothes in my closet, but nothing fits because I haven't done anything to take care of myself. I want to be able to open my closet door and pull something out and wear it because it fits. Now, those are things that are tangible. Those are things we can measure. Those are things that we can work on together. So that has been a really fun process. I think one of the most rewarding pieces of strength training people is to help them with these lifestyle segments that are just important to them. And everybody's a little bit different depending on the age and stage and where you're at on things, but that has been really rewarding. How about you, Kevin? What have you uncovered?
Yeah, thanks for sharing those things. A common question or follow-up question, kind of like what you just asked, is, there's a surface level goal of, okay, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to gain 10 pounds of muscle, whatever it is. And I'll say, okay, first of all, how long do you expect that to take? I think that's an important piece, is like, what time parameters are we putting on this? Well, I want to have that happen in 2 weeks. Like, okay, well, that's not realistic for most people. And so I think it's important to define the time parameters, and even setting, okay, if that's your big picture goal, I want to lose 10 pounds of fat. Okay, we can work that. Obviously, we can work with that. Let's set some benchmarks for that will show us that we're on the right path for what we're doing, whether it's in our training or nutrition or whatever it is. Let's set benchmarks. So every 2 pounds, we're gonna celebrate those victories and see that, hey, this is working. We're gonna continue on. Yeah, maybe it's gonna take 2 months or 3 months or however long it's gonna take, but we're on the right path. So I think that's important, just to establish some milestones along the way, but to also clearly define some time parameters too that we're looking at. But what you got to there as well is, what's underlying that goal? Like, why do you want to lose that weight? Why do you want to gain that weight or do this or that? What does that do for your lifestyle? What does that do for your life? And it's those deeper level questions that often are really interesting in terms of people's responses. And it gets generally to something that's deeper within, and that's interesting. And so obviously we handle that very professionally and carefully as we go. But there's some really neat things and breakthroughs that happen when you can actually be really honest with yourself. It's like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with. It's actually a self-image issue, or it's, whatever it is, comparing myself to someone else, and so it's really important to ask those deeper questions when we're setting the goals, because when it gets hard, like, that's what's going to have to sustain you through those difficult times. Like, anyone that's ever attempted to lose a significant amount of weight, it's hard. It's just brutally hard work for a long time. And in those moments where you're doubting, where you're just like, oh, I just want to give up, this is dumb, like, I want to stop here, it's being centered back on those things that maybe you didn't even realize were there yourself until you were asked those questions. Okay, actually, I'm going to stay focused and disciplined because the motivations behind this are strong enough for me. And so I think you have to somewhat ask, like, how much do you actually want that goal? And is it important enough for you to sacrifice for it? And so I think those are some things that in conversations I have with people, and it's like, if not, like, then it's maybe a kind of a wish list, but it's not really a goal per se, because you're not willing to sacrifice for it, essentially. But I love, and as we've talked with the team too, is the atomic habits, and that's so in line with our company, and atomic level shifts being a source of immense power for individuals in their life. And I love the focus on what is one thing we can do 1% better every workout, 1% better every week. And that's huge, and that's powerful. So yeah, so those are some things I've uncovered in those times.
One other piece too, Kevin, with the goal setting that we hear a lot about is accountability.
Yes.
People want accountability. And the way that we're set up with the online program with MyoPivot, as well as our in-studio sessions, that's a great way to have accountability just built into your schedule. So
Yes.
with these appointments that are kept, they're 1 or 2 times a week that people will come in studio, or if you're online working through the Pivot program, you can schedule coaching calls that once or twice a week, and we will do a virtual coaching session with you. And a client yesterday said, "It feels like you're right in my living room with me," which was a nice thing to say because she normally trains in studio, but now we can't during this COVID restriction season. So that was a great indication that she felt that I could see the detail in what she was doing as easily as I could when I was standing next to her in the studio. But this accountability piece is key. In fact, James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits, is to make sure that you have some accountability in this. This will make your you're reaching your goals so much more easily done if you've got some accountability.
Yes.
Clients often tell us that the fact that we have an appointment together, and even if they don't feel like coming in, because going back to that demanding nature of the exercise, the fact that we are waiting for them, and when that text message comes in, that reminder or that email reminder comes, they can kind of gear up mentally for that appointment. And
Yes.
that is key to staying on track with your strength training goals.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. And I don't know about you, but that's for me too. It's like I need accountability every day, every week, and it's just something within our nature. I think it's a good thing. We need each other, and we need each other to hold one another accountable, and that's a really great thing, because someone else will need us to hold them accountable too. So, but I agree. It's with the appointment-based setup, it makes that part of it a lot easier because it's an appointment and it's scheduled, and it's not just left up to you to decide, well, man, I don't feel like it today. It's like, if you can get to your appointment and show up, like, it's going to be good. It's going to be demanding, and we're going to stimulate that growth mechanism, but have to show up and get there to do it. So that makes it definitely more challenging in this season with COVID and not being able to be open. Obviously that's across the world. That's in the case, but yeah, it's huge if we can be on that virtual setting or whatever way that we can provide that accountability to people. So, yeah.
Okay, so for accountability with my Lightroom, I give you, Kevin, and any YouTube viewers the accountability to ask me, did you sign up for Lightroom yet? So challenge
Awesome.
on.
Okay, right on. We'll do that. Awesome. Well, great. Well, this was really fun, Becky. Thanks for jumping on today. Again, if there's any questions from anyone, feel free to shoot us an email, reach out, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you have. So we look forward to doing more of these educational seminars, keeping them more short, more of the half-hour range, hitting different topics every week. But we look forward to seeing you all again soon, and hope you have a great weekend. So anything else you want to add, Becky, before we go?
No, stay strong.
All right.
Mentally, physically, emotionally, relationally, everything. Stay strong.
That's right. Okay. Good word. All right. Take care, everybody.
Bye.